Good morning, another beautiful sunny morning at Silverstone, just preparing for qualifying coming up ahead, starting at just over 15 minutes from now. And of course this year it's a very different format of qualifying for the Blancpain Endurance rounds. Silverstone is absolutely at its prime, late spring sunshine, temperatures around 20 degrees yesterday, track conditions absolutely perfect. But the format of qualifying for the Endurance this year is so different. John Watson sitting alongside me, Bruce Jones. Perfect conditions, 25 degrees track temperature. We saw that yesterday, rising north of 30 degrees through the course of the day. But light breeze, but beautiful, beautiful day here.
Again, absolutely perfect conditions. We're going to see our qualifying section. Absolutely perfect conditions here at Silverstone. Very shortly, we're going to see, I think, one of the most intriguing qualifying sessions of the season. Partly because what we've got is a resurfaced Silverstone Formula One circuit, but also, and I've been doing a little bit of homework, which you might raise your eyebrows at, but when we looked at the top 20 times from pre-qualifying yesterday afternoon, the top 9 times were set by cars with the engines ahead of the driver.
Yes, you were picking that theme out yesterday.
I've gone through it. The first mid-engine, rear-engine car was the 58 McLaren, Andrew Watson, Tom Ledegard and Ben Bellicote. Now, there's a reason for that. And I asked one of the team owners of a mid-engine, rear-engine car. And their thinking is that it's a tyre issue because Pirelli have introduced a revised rear tyre, which was principally there to assist, as we just quickly look at the layout of the Silverstone Circuit, 18 turns, 3.6 miles, 5.9 kilometers. This rear tyre was designed to give particularly the mid-rear engine cars a more stable platform, particularly on entry and in the middle of a corner. And it works. It's a brilliant step forward. But those entrants who've got mid-front engine cars have realized, hold on a second, that enables us to do something even more, maybe aggressive with our cars. And consequently here at Silverstone, we're seeing the top 9 cars, mid-front engine cars. There's one of them, the Lexus. Only 6 out of the top 20 are mid-rear engine cars. So what we're going to see in qualifying, whether it's got anything to do with what we saw yesterday afternoon or not, no, we don't know. But one thing is for sure, it's a pretty impressive stat amongst, a circuit which is a high-speed circuit, where it's not just about stability, it's about lots of qualities with these high-speed corners. You think about Copse, mega quick corner, up to the Beckett's Chapel complex, then all the way back down, exit of Club, and then you make your way through until you come back out of Luffield. So it's an interesting perspective. Whether it'll have any bearing on qualifying or not, I mean, probably the most telling thing of all, before I sort of wind myself into a knot on all this, which car pairing was 35th quickest yesterday?
Well, with the choice of 50 crews, I'm not going to get it off the top of my head. I could cheat. Go on, tell us.
The number 1 WRT Audi, Dries van Thor, Christopher Mies, Alex Riberas. What is the car you'd normally go to in the WRT lineup to be the car that's going to be in the front row of the grid, or certainly in the top 2 or 3 rows of the grid? Yesterday, 35th quickest.
So that was the car that won the opening endurance round at Monza on a circuit that people don't think is enormously dissimilar to here. But the key for qualifying is the average time from all 3 drivers. We may have had individual cars with super quick drivers in, like Ewan Hankey going to the top overall in pre-qualifying yesterday. But he's in a Pro-Am lineup, so he's not likely to be overall at the top. It's the full Pro lineups we expected to see, but it's the one with the best balance because it's the average of all 3 drivers' lap times. There's Alex Brundle, he's hoping to do his bit. The Aston Martins fit in with the format you were talking about, front and mid-engine rather than mid and rear-engine. He was just around the tail of the top 10 yesterday, just outside 11th, in fact. Yeah, I mean, the Aston's a case in point. And as you pointed out, the quickest car yesterday was the 49 Mercedes Ram Racing. Ewan Hankey, outstanding, run 1 minute 57.447. Now that's a Pro-Am car, and one would assume that once we get through the final of the 3 qualifying loops, that car is unlikely to be the pole-sitting car for this afternoon's 3-hour event. And what we will more than likely see is a realignment of the mid-front engine than the mid-rear engine cars, so there will be more mid
rear-engine cars in the top 20 than there were, for example, at the end of that practice session yesterday afternoon.
And also, John, I think it's worth pointing out when you've got a Pro-Am entry, you've got some bronze drivers in there, so Sally Yerlock and Darren Burke won't be able to achieve the lap times that Ewan Hankey has done, so they will overall, on average, slide back down. Likewise, yesterday, we had Buncombe and Leventis alongside Lewis Williamson. He was second fastest, another Pro-Am pairing, but they're not going to be able to match that overall pace, so they will slide away. Track conditions, we said, absolutely perfect. Great to see Stracker putting on a fabulous show. There's the 44 car, one with the red. In fact, they've got always have had dark liveries, normally black with bright colours on them. The 44, which has got Oliver Rowland coming into play, fresh from his first Formula One run with Williams, and trying to adapt. He adapted a little too much by exceeding track limits yesterday. Like many drivers, he's had his knuckles wrapped, but he's going to have fun.
Well, I mean, within Blancpain this year, there has been a tightening up on abuse of track limits, and I have to say, I'm 100% in support of that. But Oliver is coming out of single-seater racing, Formula 2. He had a run out at Barcelona last week in Williams Grand Prix car. Track limits, to some degree, in Formula 2 and in Grand Prix racing, are maybe not so strictly observed as we're seeing now in Blancpain, and he just didn't realise.
Well, there we are, the car that's 35th quickest yesterday. Dries van Toor, Alex Riberas and Christopher Mies, the number 1 Audi, leading the championship by 7 points from Maxi Goetz, Maxi Buch and Alvaro Parent, who was second down at Monza as the Mercedes went strongly. Third place, another Mercedes, Lucas Stolz, Mauro Engel and Jelmer Berman, who nipped through past the 63 Lamborghini right at the end. So Caldarelli, Engelhardt and Bortolotti down in 4th place. Early days yet, but you can see with a 7-point advantage between first and second, it really is the place you want to be finishing to gallop up the order. We had the Jaguar could have placed better. It ended up 5th in Monza, that's why it's 5th on points, but not once but twice on restarts their radio wasn't working and they got jumped, and that was really expensive for them.
Yes, I mean, if you have any communications failure, particularly when you've come off a full course yellow or a safety car, you need to be right on the money when it comes to going green, because the second it goes green, you've got to be on it. You've got to be not sort of tuning in, as I said yesterday, to the radio and listening to your favourite, today program, news, whatever it happens to be. Look at that, Bruce. There's nothing more beautiful. Looking at the championship points, nothing more beautiful.
No, you're quite right, John. I know you wanted to cut to the Pro-Am championship points, but Alexander Matchell, very busy fellow this year, racing also last weekend. He was the Blancpain Asia Series, and he took a win there with Maxi Buch. So back from Thailand he is, back here to the glorious sunshine at Silverstone. Rob Smith, Derek Pearson, Seb Morris going very well. They're second in the Pro-Am points in their Team Parker Racing Bentley. And then for Ferrari, Andrea Bertolini with his teammates Nick Homerson and Louis Michiels pushing along. But on home ground, you'd expect the crew that are in 4th place, Williamson, Chris Buncombe and Nick Leventis, to really be giving absolutely everything to try and gather a whole lot more points. Lots of friends and family here at Silverstone, the team based just around the corner. But it's advantage at the moment for Matchell, Salikov, and they sit at the top of the table on 25 points. A load of others. Look, Marcus Finkel, he's helping Mark Crosstown and Neil Stevenart. Neil Stevenart had a big moment at Monza, went very, very wide indeed. But Marcus, who can just do anything he wants in an Audi, will certainly drag that grouping upwards.
So we're waiting for this session to get underway, and it was due to get underway at 37 minutes past the hour, so I think that might probably be marginal. We got the
9:45.
Yes, but it was delayed for 2 further minutes.
Yeah,
there's notification, so we still got Formula Renault on course.
Yeah, and top in the AM rankings is Philippe Duc, Fabien Barthez, and Eric Debar. So they've got an extra bonus point, not just 25 points for win, but a bonus point as well. So a look out for them.
Do you remember
they're going for the Acura ASP camp, and it's a great place to be.
Which team did Fabien Barthez play with in English Premier League? Was it Man U or Chelsea?
I think it might have been Manchester United. But
he must have been upset yesterday then as well.
Yes, well, I think he's probably covered it rather well. He can move on and spend the day here at Silverstone pursuing his new love. In fact, he's been around for quite a while now in the racing scene, so it's not just something he's jumped into. He's worked his way up over the years, and great to have him on board because he's always a great interview.
Yeah,
he is a personality. He's a big figure between the sticks. In fact, he started racing in 2008 in the French Porsche series, and was French GT champion in the Ferrari back in 2013. So he sort of earned his straps, but now it's time for the drivers to get serious. Just to reiterate, we have 3 drivers in each of all but one of the cars. And so driver 1 will go out in session 1, driver 2 in session 2, each with 15 minutes to play with and only about 7 or 8 minutes turnaround in between, and then driver 3. So we will be seeing some pairings rising to the top and then tumbling down as the teammates don't do such a good job, and others going in the opposite direction. So it's nothing is a given. Good to have the bright green Herbert Motorsport Porsche here, one of only 2 Porsches. They are 991, and the Mante Racing one, which is yellow and green, is 911. And that was just outside, about 15th yesterday afternoon, so that fits in again with John's theory about engines at the front or ahead of the middle seems to be the way to go at Silverstone.
Yeah, I mean, the Porsche obviously has the engine hanging out behind the rear wheels. It's not what you describe as a mid-rear engine car, it is pure rear engine car.
Well, we just mentioned Marcus Winkelhock, and Dakota's caught up with him and with Christopher Haase.
Christopher, now you're looking very relaxed this morning. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. We have such a beautiful weather here in Silverstone, and just had some fun of it with my teammate Winkelhock. Yeah, we're enjoying it here, and we hope for a good qualifying result.
Now your car got in a little bit of trouble yesterday, Marcus.
Sorry?
Your car got in a bit of trouble yesterday. You out of trouble now?
No, I think it's going to be relaxed today. Nice weather, as he said. I hope the car is like yesterday. Actually, I felt quite confident in the car, and I hope just for a good qualifying.
Who's quicker, you or Chris?
We are both the same, I think.
Chris, come on, who's quicker?
We're both on it.
You guys are both too honest. Good luck for qualifying. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dakota. There's always fun to be had when Marcus Winkelhock is around. He kept it under control there, but serious parries. They're both racing for the Santalot Racing team, so they enjoy each other's company. That is plain to see. Christopher Haase sharing with Simon Gachet and Antoine Young, and Marcus Winkelhock just along the pit lane. So the one Jaguar in the event, the car that finished very well, ran ahead of expectations in many ways. This G3 Jaguar from ML5 Racing went very well at Monza. Caught out, as I just mentioned, by not once but twice having radio communication problems and getting monstered and losing places on the restarts after periods when the pace was slowed right down.
Well, happy days at Silverstone, another glorious morning, and I had 2 consecutive days now where the weather has been absolutely, well, not a cloud in the sky. Track temperatures yesterday, as you mentioned, Bruce, got up into the low 30s, which probably is about as good as it's going to get at this time of year at Silverstone. But that, and combined with the new black top that has been laid on the Grand Prix circuit, drivers commenting on how much more grip was coming from the circuit, and certainly we noticed pretty early in the proceedings there was a lot of rubber going down, particularly coming out of Brooklyn. It's very obvious at that part of the track.
Well, we've just been talking about Mercedes number 49, fast yesterday. Let's hear from Sally Jolich.
Sally, now you boys were the fastest on track yesterday. Are you going to be the fastest today?
That's the goal, isn't it? I mean, we had a quite unlucky weekend in Monza, and we are here to make up for some of it, so let's hope so.
And where would you like to qualify?
Pole position.
Whoa! And can you do it?
Hopefully, yeah.
There's big competition here.
Yeah, of course. There's some really good lineups against us, but I'm confident of us, so we'll see.
Let's see how you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakota, down with Sally Jolich. Sally's sharing with Darren Burke, but the star in that car, there can be no denying, is Ewan Hankey, and he put in that performance yesterday, 1 minute 57.447 seconds. But don't forget, I just have to reiterate, and I'll probably carry on reiterating until we've got to the end of Q3. Each of the drivers goes out, one in each of the sessions, and we take the average of their best times. It's no good having one driver in the car who could do a quick time and the others are half a second away. That won't be the way to get to the top. You've got to have a really, really good, strong average.
Yes, and the other, I believe, a gain from this revised qualifying method is that previously we had a pro driver setting, a pole time in some instances, and then he wouldn't take the start. So you had a mix of talent at the very front, and that sometimes wasn't ideal. And we have seen instances where there's been contact going into turn one. We saw it only last year at Monza. It didn't even get to turn one, in fact, because it all occurred on the run down into turn one. So what we have now, I think everybody's much happier with, takes pressure also off the gentleman or the less experienced driver, when he's surrounded by what I would call full-on professional drivers who do not take any prisoners. They're out there and they're going to make sure that they can put on a show and get through where they need to. Ricky Collard just chatting to team members of the Road Racing BMW. They again showed really good pace throughout that session. Ended up just looking down to see where the Road Racing. In fact, they didn't get into the top 20 in the end, but
no, there's one in 15th place.
15th place, in
but
fact.
They had been deep in the top 10, but that just showed how much it changed. Let's go down to the paddock again. One of the cars that went very well yesterday was Team Parker Racing Bentley, and Dakota's nipped down and caught up with Seb Morris.
Seb, British GT champion of 2017, but Blancpain is a much different game. How are you going to compete here?
Doesn't faze me, we're all right. I think we're looking really quick yesterday. Both my AMs, Rob and Derek, are doing a very good job, and the old girls still got it. So hopefully we can push to be at the front today.
Very well. Good luck.
Thank you. And just to reiterate that Seb Morris is sharing with Derek Pearce and Rob Smith. Rob, who enjoyed great success with Dries Van Toor, winning the GTE AM class at Le Mans last year, so they have a bit of a relationship, but right now it's good to have that Bentley still here. Team Parker Racing enjoying running those for the last couple of years.
I'm not sure the late W.O. Bentley would appreciate one of his current products being called the old gal.
He's not around to complain.
He would call it the old gal.
Oh, the gal, sorry. Yes,
gal, not a gal.
I'll take myself
gal.
out. And
anyway, they finished up 22nd, and they were 1.1 seconds away from that fastest lap by Johan Hanke. And just looking to see, in fact, the top 19 cars yesterday morning or yesterday evening were covered by just under 1 second. And I mean, well, what's the surprise? We know it's competitive, and to be 1 second down and be down in 19th place is a bit of an eye-opener. As we look at the 31 Bentley sitting resplendent.
Well, when referring to an old gal or an old girl, it's of course the previous generation Bentley.
It is
now
the
we're looking at the contemporary
G1.
7 and 8 from Team Bentley, Team M Sport. Okay, so we're starting 5 minutes late. That's the message at 09:50. It's just 2 minutes away from now 7 and 8. And the story for this weekend is the fact that Guy Smith, one of the 3 drivers in the number 7 Bentley, showing with Jules Gounon and Stephen Kane, this will be his last start for the team. So he's going to finish on home ground in his 17th year of being a Works Bentley driver. Massively illustrious career. Of course, the most famous win of all was 2003 Le Mans when he won in the prototypes, but he will be handing over to South African racer Jordan Moore. So it's going to be an emotional and hopefully a very special race meeting for Guy Smith in the number 7 Bentley.
It's always a difficult moment for a driver when they consciously decide that this is my last race, whether you're a GT driver or a single-seater driver or whatever, because it's sort of, once you've made that commitment to say, I'm finished, you wake up the following day and you might think, well, did I really mean it? Because what am I going to do? What have I got to look forward to? And it's that, being a part of a team, being on the inside, being a driver, the commitment, the physical side of it, the mental side of it, you have to go and do your training, the dietary side, very much more scientific, of course, today for everybody in the pit lane. And it's why you might think, I don't have to worry about getting to an airport or getting to a circuit or picking up the rent car. Actually, believe me, it's quite hard, and it's a sort of cold turkey that Guy Smith has opted to go down. My view is, if you want to stop racing, do it in a more gradual taper. Find another, maybe GT4, for example, which is very strong right now in Great Britain and growing globally. Maybe do something in GT4 and act as the senior driver in a young driver pairing. But it's that cold turkey aspect I find not ideal.
No, I think it's also stepping away. You've always been part of a team. You've worked with lots of people, and then suddenly, necessarily, you're in a world pretty much on your own, unless you get an ambassadorial role. But it's still not the same. It never will be the same.
One of the differences is when you make your first visit to a circuit, to another Blancpain round, for example, in maybe later this year or 2019, it's not the same when you walk into your old team. You're not quite on the inside of the inside, and that you think, oh, why am I not being involved, or why am I not fully involved in technical discussions? And it is a funny feeling. It takes time to adapt.
I'm sure it is. So the session underway, and I'm sure you could end up drinking rather too many cups of coffee if you come in and you're not fully engaged. So the Lamborghini is right up by pit exit. That's number 82. The first driver out, and that should be Phil Keane. driver with so much experience on the British circuits, but really starting to grow internationally as well in the 82. Lamborghini 1 of 3 from the Grasser racing team. Grandstand starting to fill up, but actually a lot of people lying out on the banking around the circuit because the weather is just so fantastic here this morning. Brilliant day, Friday and yesterday, but the wave green flags around the circuit. So drivers out, should have 50 of them going out for their first run around the circuit this morning. Of course, when they ended yesterday, track conditions very different. They were a lot warmer, but no rain overnight. And the big point that John was making yesterday was how much rubber's being put down. So the track should be getting faster and faster. In fact, in these conditions, should be brilliant. A little bit cooler.
Yeah, I mean, the ambient is a little bit cooler, the air that little bit more dense, so therefore it gives the hate calling them motors, the engine, normally, particularly a normally aspirated engine, will benefit from that. But also there will be a marginal benefit from aerodynamics because the denser air will generate a little bit more downforce. So the car might feel fractionally different. Apart from that, the ambient temperature has an influence as well. So everybody out 13 minutes and 23 seconds. So there's not a lot of time. You've got to get out and get on with the program. So some of the teams opted to go out at the earliest opportunity. 1 or 2 will maybe hang back and just go for that one really quick lap. Hopefully they get a clear lap to complete it in.
But however you cut it, John, there will be 50 cars out on the circuit, and that's more than a crowd. So there will be drivers who just don't get themselves into a clear space on the circuit. The first car out ought to be one that has the most space to play with. That's looking at the 78 Barwell Motorsport Michele Beretta driven Lamborghini. That's the one with the blue flashes on the side.
So Lamborghini and Audi, brands under the same umbrella of the VW Audi group, V10 engine, and share a lot of common components. Obviously the bodywork is different and aerodynamics consequently are different as well. But 2 extremely well sorted cars, mid-rear engine cars as opposed to the mid-front engine cars which dominated yesterday's second practice session. So 76 first car we have picked up on a flying lap, so we'll get a gauge, if you like, as to where the track is in terms of lap time. It will take a couple of laps, maybe 3 laps, before we see times probably getting close to what we had on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, we ended up with the best lap of 1 minute 57.447 seconds by the number 49 Ram Racing Mercedes. That should be out in the hands of Darren Burke at the moment. So the first flying lap, actually, Dries van Tor, number 1, 2 minutes 22, but ignore that, that doesn't really count. That's just including leaving the pit lane.
Need to keep an eye as watching Phil Keane as he came through Club Corner. There are marker cones on the outside of Club Corner to prevent drivers from literally going way off and then getting a straight line back through the second part of Club to get extra speed along the Club straight.
There were a lot of driver warning flags yesterday. They would have been, this is the time your punishment could be a great... Oh, he's
backed out of it all. Just suddenly, Phil Keane decided I wasn't happy with that lap. I don't know whether that was anything to do with coming out of Club Corner.
That was actually Michele Beretta, I believe, in the 78.
Yeah, it is.
The number 4, one of the easiest Mercedes spots, so super bright. And that is in the hands at the moment of Maro Engel, who's been a busy boy. He was competing at the Berlin E-Prix yesterday. Makes us look a bit pedestrian just doing 1 race meeting per weekend, John.
He's just gone, I mean, literally jumped into the car having flown in from Berlin last night, a 158.7, and that is the first proper lap. 158.7 would have put him outside of the top 22 yesterday, but bearing in mind it's his first flying lap around Silverstone this morning. So a pretty good effort. Another of the Lamborghinis.
Well, that's not just slowing, that is all but stopped down the Hangar Straight. That's one of the older racing cars, number 12 by looks things. So that's very unfortunate indeed for Davide Rizzo, I think, on board that one.
There's Derek Pierce in the 21. Parker Racing Bentley.
Right, we've got a new name at the top. It's a Lexus again. It's Marcus Paltler, 114. That was the slower of the 2 Lexuses yesterday. And unfortunately, this is not what you want during a session where it's very short, only 15 minutes to go out and play, and one of the 2 Bentleys sitting in the pit lane there.
Yes, the hood off and work going on the
number 8
on the engine. So Derek Pierce comes out of Luffield and literally thunders his way through Woodcote, comes across start-finish line, and let's have a look and see where that puts. Good effort, 159.1.
Yeah, Derek Pearce will be pleased with that. So we've got 4 cars under the 2 minutes mark, 5 minutes, 5 under the 2 minutes mark. So there, Seb Morris nodding his approval. Rob Smith normally jumping up and down with delight, is keeping the race face on, but he's got to go out next to do his qualifying run in Q2. Car number 12 stopped on the track and continued. That's the one we saw. It was the Ombra Racing Lamborghini, Andrea Rizzoli. So not what we want here is Dries van Tor. At the moment, not got a flying lap on the board because that was counting as an out lap, the one we saw. The number 1 Audi, John just pointed out before that it was only 35th fastest of the 50 runners yesterday. No particular problem, but 2 spins and then bang, Dries van Tor goes into second place, just over a quarter of a second down on the number 114 Lexus, and that in turn is usurped by Jules Simkowiak in an Acura ASP Mercedes. He shares with Jack Manchester and Nico Bastian, and that goes top 1 minute 58.005, so just over half a second down the ultimate pace set yesterday, and the 114 Lexus going super well.
Yeah, fastest overall in the first sector, looking to find a way past the Mercedes coming into Luffield, down to Brooklands, and that has sadly for him seen probably the opportunity to go quickest overall. It's now 62's gone quickest. The R Sport Aston Martin, Alex Brundle behind the wheel on 157.7. So a very good time indeed. That's a big 2 and a bit tenths away from the quickest time yesterday.
Yeah, and quicker than his quickest time yesterday, so very much going the right way. So it's great to have the R Motorsport team on board with these 2 fabulous looking Aston Martins, and a lot of support in the paddock for them as well. Not surprisingly, Paltala was caught out, lost that. We saw him getting caught by the SMP Racing Mercedes, and that is why he hasn't improved. Stays third. Power steering problems for the number 8 Bentley, so at least it's not interrupting Guy Smith in his final run, but for Vincent Abril, it's very frustrating indeed. Sitting in the pit lane, you can see half the session, it was 15 minutes, has just been run. 7 minutes 30 remaining. Here's Alex Brundle, not so quick on this lap, but he's banging that super good lap, 0.3 of a second, precisely faster than Jules Simkowiak at the top of the time charts.
Well, fastest sector 1 on this lap for the 76 Aston Martin, the 62 currently holding that provisional pole. So Aston Martin, look, now we're running when it really counts. It's not just for homework, this is for grid position. So fastest overall second, so strong run indeed by both the Astons, and assuming he can get clear of the Lamborghini as they come down into Brooklands, which they've done. So no traffic immediately ahead. This is an opportunity to consolidate the current provisional pole position held by the 62. As the 76 Aston Martin comes out of Luffield now, swings through Woodcote Corner, and lap time is going to be 156.6.
Whoa. Wow. And that was in the lap where it looked like he was constantly about to be compromised by traffic. Fastest by just over a second. So we're riding on board the sister car that's now second fastest. That's a rather funny little line on the thing. We got the names of the 3 drivers, but it's Maxime Martin, but read from the top, Martin, it's Martin Brundle Kirchhofer. He's double-barreled now, Brundle Kirchhofer.
Wouldn't Martin love to have that when he does his commentaries? But there I am, it's my car, you know.
Yes. A reminder, that was an astonishing lap from Mathieu Vassilier, the French racer, fastest by 1.068 seconds from his own teammate, who in turn is a 1/10 of a second clear of the new 3rd place runner, which is Mauro Engel, the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. How about the number 1 Audi at the moment with Dries van Tor at the wheel, down in 11th place?
Wow, I'll tell you what, big commitment from Dries van Tor coming through Abbey. Had the car right on, I mean, he was dancing across the racetrack, round that curve, and normally you don't see somebody getting that wide on the exit of Abbey as we saw Dries van Tor, but the young Belgian driver only knows one way, and that is flat out personal best first and second sector. How much this is going to be a lap to challenge the top 3, well actually challenging the 4th place car, which is the 58 McLaren of Andrew Watson, the first of the mid-rear engine cars. That probably is going to be the benchmark for the number 1 Audi right now.
I think he's going to try and pop himself into second place with that 1 second advantage between the 76 Aston Martin and the 62 Aston Martin. Sweeping through Woodcote, where's the number 1 going to slot in? Into second place, at least I got that bit right. 57.300, so he's 2/3 of a second down on Vassilier's astonishing lap in the 76 Aston Martin, all looking off in the pit lane. Alex Brundle's still got time to fight back, and he's just been slightly slowed in the middle sector, having improved his opening sector, but it's not Aston Martin 1-2, it's Aston Martin 1-3 at the moment, with the number 1 Audi slotted in between.
So the lap where we saw Dries van Thol and a spinner up at the exit. One of the BMWs, just looking from our
It's
timing
the
and scoring.
Walker-Horse Motorsport BMW number 36.
There it is, and the exit of Luffield. So he's spun on the exit and spun across the track, almost at the point where the pit lane entrance is. You can see the pit lane entrance just ahead of the 36 BMW Henry Valkenhurst. So,
well, if you're the team owner and team boss, I guess you're the one who's allowed to spin the car.
We're not seeing any yellow. Well, now we've got a yellow flag in sector 3, which is the final sector at Silverstone. So everybody coming through that sector must be careful. Just the 63 Lamborghini making its way through as we speak. So going to cross the line. Red flag. So
now,
this section is going to be stopped.
That is very unfortunate. We were just watching Andrew Watson on screen. He'd set his personal best in sectors 1 and 2 in 8th place, likely to improve on that. So the McLaren limps in, drives into the pits, and the BMW limps off the curbing. Car 23, Matt Parry, reported for hitting a cone in turn 9. Out at club, they've been warned. It does happen.
Well, why did the cone not hit him back then?
Yeah, I know.
You know, if you're going to get
Sunday morning.
There we go, Henry Valkenhurst. Back end of the BM, slightly unusual exit on the part of the racetrack. And no doubt the torque from the V8 BMW engine just too much for the tyres. There we see everybody coming back literally at a walking pace, as is required under a red flag condition.
Oh, so for drivers like Andrew Watson, who are very near pit entry, it was all right, they got in quickly. 3 minutes 56 still on the clock. So that means it's going to be very, very quick fire when the field gets released again.
Scary, Bruce, scary.
We like it like that, John,
it's
don't we?
an out lap, which will be at best from the pit lane 2 minutes, maybe 8-10 seconds. And then you've got one flying lap, and that's assuming that you start from the front of the pit lane, or the pit box nearest to the pit lane exit. If you're at the pit box at pit lane entrance, it's going to take you the best part of 20 seconds, 30 seconds to drive down.
Well, what this does do, it gives a little bit more time for the M Sport crew to try and fix the power steering problem on Vincent Abril's number 8 Bentley. This is the car just coming in behind, of course, as John pointed out. It does take quite a while to get the back when they're made to slow right down to what to them would seem like walking pace. Just to reiterate, car 23 reported to stewards for hitting a cone in turn 9. There could be some punishment that comes with that. We will see.
That's there are 2 cones on the outside of Club Corner. It's between the 2 parts of Club Corner, and you try to make a really one constant arc as you go through the corner, but if you get too far out those cones, and clearly Matt Parry has managed to sideswipe one of them, and he's been reported to the stewards for doing so.
10th fastest at the time of the stoppage. Just under 4 minutes remaining in this session. A lot of the drivers were just en route to their fastest lap and were scuppered, but what we do have is Mathieu Vassivia sitting very comfortably at the top of the pile, 2/3 of a second clear of the number 1 Audi in the 76 R Motorsport Aston Martin, the 2nd R Motorsport Aston Martin, Alex Brundle 3rd fastest, and then the cars are very, very close. The next 5 clustered in the space of 1/10 of a second. Marco Seefried putting the number 14 Lexus, showing that yesterday was no flash in the pan. He's 4th fastest. Dirk Werner 5th fastest in the Porsche, and the number 4 Maro Engel Mercedes just arriving in the pit lane, and that is 5th quickest.
The time of Dirk Werner, currently 5th quickest. First time we've actually seen the real pace of the 911 Porsche, the Manthey racing car. Again, that's a pro car. So where will that end up overall? Because all 3 drivers are capable of matching the time of Dirk Werner. So that's going to be a strong top 10 qualifier in my view. And some of the cars that we're seeing in the top 10 currently may not be there by the time we get through the final of the 3 individual qualifying segments.
Well, the driver who set the absolute stunning time there is Mathieu Vassivia, and Dakota's hot-footed it down to our Motorsport, and it's going to talk to him.
Mathieu, currently fastest in Q1. Is all going to plan?
Yeah, for the moment we're happy. We'll see. It's in Q2, in Q3 also with the other driver. So, but so far so good. I overtake also a car in my lap, so I was pretty happy of my lap. Just the last sector was a bit hard, but yeah, really happy about that. And we will see where you end up at the end of the quali.
Now, how cool is it to drive an Aston Martin at Silverstone?
It's fantastic. It's really good. We have a good weather, a good car here in Silverstone. So yeah, all the British we are behind us, so it's cool.
And who's next in the car? Who's next in the car?
Will be Jake. So Jake and Nicky. So yeah, I hope that we will do everyone a good job. So finger crossed.
Good luck, thanks.
Bruce, it's interesting, just in the good old days of sports car racing in Great Britain, Silverstone used to be a circuit, a Jaguar circuit, whereas Goodwood down in the south coast in Sussex, well, I didn't mention the Duke of Sussex, did I? But that was very much an Aston Martin circuit, and it's funny now, I think all that that stuff is all gone. If you're quick everywhere.
Yeah, and in fact, just listening to Mathieu, who's clearly not going out again, he's set his time, gives the team more chance to sort it out. When he talks about the calibre of his teammates in that 76 Aston Martin, Jake Dennis next and Nicky Team, that is a very, very strong trio of drivers. And in qualifying, that is what you look for, as well as, of course, when you extend your legs in the race. But 0.5 on the windscreen of the 911 Manto Racing Porsche, as you said, that wasn't looking likely at any point yesterday. Not dissing the drivers at all, but clearly just trying to get that dialed in. Fred Machiavicki had some hairy, leery moments in that. And Dirk Werner sharing also with Romain Dumas, who's been there, seen it, done it. But great to have this mixture of cars up at the front end.
So the 911 Porsche, we're looking to see where it was.
Well, we're green again, John. So
okay.
Cars out on the circuit, and already a minute at the time has elapsed, and some of the field already down at Stowe. And look at a gaggle of six cars heading down into Stowe. They've got to make themselves space, but what they really need is just to get past the start-finish line in time to start this flying lap. That's all they need to do, but they need to make space for themselves.
Well, there's a car that's made a bit of space for itself, the 63 Lamborghini. I'm assuming it's Mirko Borgoson, it's Andrea Calderaldi in the car currently. So that car has 8th quickest time to date, 1.2 seconds slower than the Aston Martin, but only half a second slower than Dries van Voren, the Audi, who is second quickest. Yeah, so I mean, it looks to me that the 76 Aston Martin's time is almost beyond reach currently, other than maybe one of the pro entries find something magic when they get up and do their run.
Well, by benefiting of having the garage closest to pit exit, the 82 Lamborghini Grasser Racing entering Phil Keane on board. He is the first driver in that line of cars. He has got clear track, and down in 18th place, nearly best part of 2 seconds down on that fantastic lap from Mathieu Vassivière. But I would reckon Phil Keane in a Lamborghini around here should be good, definitely for the top 10, but probably, I would think, we might see him fleetingly go up to about 5th or 6th place if this lap is a good one, but he's certainly got the space to play.
The sister car behind, so both Lamborghinis benefiting from that pit lane exit, clear racetrack. So for Phil Keane in particular, it's a personal best. So Sector 1 is an improvement, currently down in 18th place, lap time 1:58.5. So
I think we might find him half a second will move him up to the tail of the top end if he can get 3/4 of a second. First part of the lap, yes, it's his best, but it's not that good though.
Just watching on board the speed and the gear shift as they come along, which is now the start, is finished straight for the Grand Prix, 230 kilometers per hour before he turns in to Abbey, drops down to just under 200 kilometers per hour, and then gets the car straightened up before you go into this complex of farm, then up into the loop.
It's interesting, John, to see how the top teams are handling it. The top 5 runners have not bothered going back out for the final few moments of this session. They're obviously thinking just give the team time to settle down, get the next driver on board. But of course, down at Grasser Racing Team, you can see Ezekiel Perez, Compank and all the team just looking down to see how Phil Keane is doing. The 19 car that's running behind, how that's doing, and also the 63 car, Andrea Caldarelli in that. But keeping the cameras on, Phil Keane set a 1:58.5. Before the red flag was flown. You can see the clock has ticked its way up to the end of the 15 minutes, so the checkered flag is now hanging out on the start-finish straight, being waved right in the face of 82, so he didn't quite get, if he'd been 2 or 3 seconds faster, he could have, earlier onto the track, he could have got one further flying lap, but where did that move him to? Up to 9th.
Yeah, I mean, he's into the top 10 currently, which is better than being down in 18th, so a few more slots being changed. There's the 63, the sister car, Andrea Caldarelli behind the wheel. So 63 is currently in 9th, so you got the 2 Grasser Racing Lamborghinis 9th and 10th as we stand. Alex Fontana in the Jaguar S-Type, or XK, I should say, not S-Type,
yeah.
XK.
He's in 15th position, hasn't finished his lap though, down to 16th, coming around to complete it now, sweeping through Woodcote. The Swiss flag on the nose of the Emil Frey Racing entry, the Jaguar G3 as they call it. Looking for movement, it comes up to 4th place. That was a really, really good finish there from Alex Fontana. So pace at Monza, pace at Silverstone for the Emil Frey Racing Jaguar.
And good to see that the racetrack is responding. More track time, we're getting the quicker the times are beginning to develop.
And knowledge of the circuit certainly helped. Ricky Collard has just gone up into third place ahead of Fontana. So it's Vassivier in the 76 Aston Martin, the number 1 Audi of Dries van Toorn. Ricky Collard Jr. up into third place in his 98 BMW, and the 54 Jaguar in fourth, and the second of the BMWs. You talked about their progress. Jesse Krohn into fifth place.
So changes in those few minutes that remained. Nobody challenged the almost out of reach lap time of the 76 Aston Martin. Still 0.6 of a second ahead of second place Dries van Toorn. And I mean, when you get, I mean, to have a 0.6 of a second advantage in a Blancpain qualifying session is almost unheard of. We've got 2 more qualifying sessions to go, but that gives that car, that team, massive latitude for the second and third drivers when they get in for their qualifying slots. There was the 62 car. Alex Brundle put that car. It was at one point quickest. It dropped down finally to 10th or 9th place, still just a second behind the sister 76 car. So Maxime Martin and others, as Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley, wondering what is happening. Did Vanson Avril get out or not? Or are they still trying to Sandy Suchek getting suited to go out? Did that number 8 Bentley get out eventually or not?
Didn't see it, but there we have that astonishing lap. 1 minute 56.637, nearly 2/3 of a second clear. So fabulous run by Mathieu Vassivier in the R Motorsport Aston Martin. Dries van Toorn moved up into second place in the number 1 Audi, and then the BMWs came on strong. Ricky Collard and Jesse Krohn moving to third and fifth, separated by Alex Fontana. Great last lap from him in the session that was stopped to go into fourth place. But really the talking point after the first of the 3 qualifying sessions, all 15 minutes long, is the pace of Mathieu Vassivier. And looking at the lineup of his teammates, Jake Dennis and Nicky Thiem, it's all in qualifying about getting a well-balanced crew who can all deliver, because the average lap time of all 3 of them is what counts when we get to the end of Q3. That is what will decide the grid, but it's very much a case of Aston Martin at the top. They started to show their hand yesterday, broke into the top 10, but nothing suggested they'd managed to take a second off the quickest time of all from yesterday and end up at the top of the chart. So hats off to Mathieu Vassivier, worked the traffic very well indeed. And with 50 cars coming out to play, still running down the times on the screen, and Alexander Matchell in the 333. Ferrari going very well indeed in the Pro-Am class, but not quite matching the pace of the Ram Racing Mercedes, which is up at the top of that timing page in 25th overall. And just looking all the way down to the bottom, we have to go to a further timing screen to get to see who was last of all. Car 42, by the way, will be reported to the stewards for hitting a cone in turn 9. That's at Club, and that was Chris Buncombe. They're certainly very, very hot on that this weekend, looking out to see who's trying to steal an advantage. And in the end, of course, 49 cars set a time. Number 8 Bentley did not, because power problems. So let's go down to Aston Martin world, because Alex Brundle is with Dakota.
Alex, P9 for you. How are you settling into Blancpain?
Getting there. First lap this morning was pretty good. We popped up to the top, and then I didn't quite get a second lap in that I wanted. But yeah, making progress every weekend, and we're in the hunt now for the other 2 guys. So very much in with a shout. So we'll see what happens in the next 2 sessions. Now the Aston Martin looks like a great car to be racing on Silverstone. You've definitely got the pace there. Yeah, we seem to be pretty good this morning. I mean, obviously Vax has just put in a storming lap. He jumped out and was like, yeah, that was a good one. So I think that plays into it. But yeah, we'll see over the full driver range how it plays out. Do you think you were going to beat Matt? From yesterday, we look close, but like I say, it's all about how the laps work out in qualifying. The most important thing is to put in a lap without track limits in the ballpark of where we need to be, because it's the average that counts, obviously, for the grid position. So we're there or thereabouts, and the other 2, I'm sure, will do a great job now. We shall see. Good luck.
Thank you, Dakota, and always good to hear from Alex Brundle. Also to watch Alex, because his face tells 1,000 stories. As I just loved the expression he drew. Reproducing what Mathieu Vassivier had when he took off his helmet.
It's like a mime artist. Yes. Your expression through hands and face and eyes.
Now, looking at the 54 Jaguar, we had a spin, and the Jaguar was very close behind. The 36 Walkenhorst but BMW wasn't given a push, but the fact the bodywork was being checked on the front of the Jaguar suggests it could have done, and it's under investigation from the stewards. I'm not entirely sure there was a hit there.
Difficult to tell, but what was clear to me was the 36 BMW, in relation to where it ought to have been on the racetrack and the exit of Luffield, didn't appear to be in the right part of the racetrack. We didn't catch that little snapshot until just now, so maybe there was a little bit of contact. Now it's the left front of the car that's having some attention paid to it, and just trying to think of where that, if there had been contact, what it would have been. It may have been just a very light little touch, whatever it was. Certainly the Jaguar was close to that BMW. If we can really get it slowed down, the BMW is already going. The Jaguar clearly is very close. Whether the contact occurred prior or post, if there was contact at all, it's difficult to tell. We need to.
I would have thought, though, John, it would have been the front, the other side at the front that would have had the contact. I think if there was contact, it possibly would have been once the BMW was spinning and the tail came round.
It may have been that the contact came as a consequence of an independent spin rather than the cause of the spin.
But for the Emil Fry Jaguar racing team, there's been nervous time because they do not want that time taken away, because obviously you need fast times for all of their drivers, but that was 4th quickest.
Indeed.
So they'll be particularly protective of it. But qualifying 2 ready to be underway in just over 15 seconds, and we'll have another 15 minutes. Let's hope there's not a red flag in the middle of this, because certainly a lot of drivers would have felt compromised by the timing of the last one, because in session number 1, because they had just set their fastest first couple of sectors, saw the flags and had to report to the pits. The lap therefore wasted. But good to see people enjoying themselves out around the circuit. Conditions continue to be perfect. A very, very light breeze, but it's a beautiful late spring day. The cars you can see already going out onto the circuit. 15 minutes to go and play. And in Emil Frey world, they're just discussing whether there was contact or not. Up on the pit wall there, there's Alex Fontana running across. Now, making space on the circuit, John, is hugely important. Yes, we've got 5.901 kilometres or 3.6 miles to go out and play, but 50 cars, they can soon crowd it out.
Oh, well, what usually happens is you get bunching. You don't get everybody equally spaced around the 3.6 miles. I'll call it in the old school, you'll call it in the new school. It is always a problem when you have got a large field of cars on the circuit, even of this length. And Silverstone is one of the largest circuits currently in use, Grade 1 circuits around the world. So you have to time it. That's part of the skill of the management side of running a team. And then once you release your driver, he also has got to do his job and make sure he can almost modulate where he is in relation to car ahead or a car behind, so as he doesn't find himself running into or being put under pressure from somebody running directly behind you.
So Neil Stephenhart, driver who had a massive off-track moment to Monza, got away with it. Very light damage at the Lesmos, really starting to pick up the pace. But what he has right now in his Sansalot Racing Audi is space around him, so he can settle in, get the heat of those tyres, and then build up towards a flying lap. And the clock already 1.5 minutes and 15 minutes ticked away. It's not the friend of the drivers, the clock, through the course of the session. Number 26 car, Mark Rostan, did the first session, and Neil Stephenhart now, they hand over to a guy who's super, super handy, which is Marcus Finkelhock in Q3.
Indeed, so there's still a lot of people hanging back in the pits now, whether they're just going to go and have that one flying lap, so it'll be an out lap, a flying lap, and come in. You know, that's the gamble in taking that risk. You may just find yourself caught in a group of traffic, and that could just be the end of your lap.
Well, we're just going to catch up with Alex Fontana. Did he hit that BMW?
Alex, just quickly, did you actually hit that BMW?
Sadly, I did. It was unfortunate. It was not my intention. It wasn't very clear what the driver wanted to do. I realized it was an amateur driver, but I thought that we could have finished the lap near together. But in the middle of the corner, he decided to lift to go to the pit box. But at the moment, I didn't know that he wanted to go to the pit lane, because the pit lane entrance is very far away from the last corner. And I was full power, and I was surprised that he lifted the throttle and maybe even braked to move to the right. So I'm sure that he didn't make it on purpose, but neither did I. So I hope we can just consider it as a racing incident.
Right, okay, thank you.
The problem is that the pro driver, if he has contact with the AM, is always held the responsible party. Now, Alex, his explanation to me is a very plausible explanation. The pit lane entrance is there. The BMW was not on what it looks like now on the racing line. It was actually attempting to come in or making its preparations to come into the pit lane, and just maybe Alex Fontana was wrong-footed. So we'll wait and see whether there'll be a penalty or not given to that Jaguar, which would be a disappointment to Alex Fontana and to the Emil Frey team.
It would. On these small things, races can turn around, and certainly if your qualifying performance puts you down in down the order in a 50-car field, not where you want to be. So the second driver in the number 1 Audi, first of all it was Dries van Toorn, now it's Christopher Mies, and fastest of anybody in the first sector, fastest of anybody in the second sector is Niels Stevenart at the moment.
Here we go.
And now that's been bettered enormously by...
Christopher Mies has got fastest first and second sector, but also Jules Gugnon looks to have a purple in first sector, so the timing and scoring is really having to work overtime to catch up with these pro drivers in particular, going purple, purple, purple in all 3 sectors.
Now with 50 cars out to play, well, we want all 50 out. The good news, they all seem to be, because the number 8 Bentley seems to have had the power steering problem repaired. Andy Soucek out on the circuit. Vincent Abril was the driver who was frustrated. So what sort of time can you see for Chris Mies? 1:57.575. Don't forget, the Aston Martin went into 1:56, but that was the first example of a flying lap from Christopher.
And that lap time between Dries van Toorn and Christopher Mies in the number 1 Audi puts them provisionally at the top of timing and scoring. So all of a sudden we're now seeing maybe the true picture, not the one we saw on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, but it's beginning to evolve into something which we're maybe more familiar with. 27 Pro-Am Ram Racing Mercedes up into second place as well. Now it's been knocked down to third because the 24 Ryder Youngstars Lamborghini Gallardo, and now Jules Gugnon has got the quickest overall in the Mercedes. Well, that number 7 is the quickest car overall between the 2 drivers that have so far participated.
Yeah, now the difference there, of course, John, is that it might have the fastest lap in this session, but it only puts them third on aggregate. At the moment, it's the number 1 Audi from the number 114 Lexus, Stefan Ortelli at the wheel, and then Jules Gugnon bouncing over the curbs in this new for 2018 Continental is in third place. But suddenly we have the 62 Aston Martin to the top, because Maxime Martin has combined with the work of Alex Brundle, and they're on top by just under a tenth of a second. But of course it changes because the
sister car,
albeit with the wrong name on the timing screens, is now at the top of the screens, but because Jake Dennis in that.
The 76 Aston Martin had such a benefit, the 0.6 of a second advantage over the remaining field. You almost find it impossible not to see that car overall quickest in sector 2, and that's currently where it stands, fastest car of the 2 sessions so far.
So it's the 2 Aston Martins in Q2, 1 and 2, and the provisional second row in this session alone. The 2 Bentleys, 8 and 7. So good to see them showing their pace. And Jules Gugnon really pressing on. He's going faster than on his previous lap. Appears to have a little bit of traffic up ahead of him, which could compromise him, lead him to back off. But hold on, red flag. We've got a red flag.
Yeah, and he's backed out of it round at the loop. So a red flag has been. We can't see anything from our commentary position, looking towards Brooklands, Luffield. So there is one of the Lamborghinis, and
the 78 Barwell car, and at the wheel of that would be Sandy Mitchell. And you can see the signal, the SC boards at the side of the circuit, and that's quite a long way off the track.
I mean, I think
try to work out where it is.
Well, that's at the Maggots-Beckett's complex, but I don't know how he's managed to get that. We saw one car go off. One of the, I forget what it was, an Audi.
We had a Ferrari that got stuck in the gravel, and Audi drove right through. He's gone.
That's coming into Maggots, through Maggots into Beckett's. Yeah. So it's ended up way to the right, almost getting to the barriers. So it's the second car this weekend we've seen in that part of the racetrack. So everything has been neutralised under red flag. 8 minutes 50 seconds remaining.
Now, of course, what that does for the number 78 Lamborghini crew is it means that when this session restarts, people will go fastest. He's 20th in this session. That time will tumble down the order, and it really will hit the aggregate combination. After 1.5 of the 3 qualifying sessions, it's the 2 Aston Martins from our Motorsport, number 76 and 62 at the top of the charts. The number 1 Audi is in third. There's Mark Lemmer of Barwell Motorsport instructing Sandy Mitchell what to do so they can get the car back to the garage as quickly as possible. Down the pit lane, the 911 Porsche not in the top 20 in Q2, not in the top 20 in the combined classification. But don't forget, they didn't go out at the end of Q1. Fred Makiavicki will be very handy when he gets out there, but it's when the session will be restarted. That's the question. I think you keep your car in the shade as long as you can, and then get it towards the exit to get on the track as soon as possible.
So the Snatch crew will get to the Barwell Lamborghini as quickly as possible, remove it. Whether they will enable that car to get back on track, we've seen cars. We saw Stephen Kane, for example, in Bentley number 7 get into the there. It's been pulled. Usual story with loads and loads of this. On this occasion, it's grass in the air intakes, the brake air intakes. So will they pull it behind the barrier, which is looking to me as if that's what they're proposing to do, and that will mean that that car will have no further proceedings in.
Well, in Q2, and the question is, will they have time? Because there's only an 8-minute gap before Q3.
They're going to get it back. I mean, what you're saying, cars going from left to right, that's the exit of Aintree to go down Wellington Straight. So there's a little access road at that part of the track. So it was the entry and transition from right to left to go through Beckett's, where the Lamborghini then lost control and went over the grass and probably just about clipped the gravel trap in its process.
Well, if they can get it going and fire it back down the Wellington Straight, the other cars are still returning to the pits. They have to come in at fixed speed. You cannot exceed that. Well, you can, but you get in trouble if you do. So for those that got their cars in earlier, they've had a chance to settle things down. The Aston Martins seem to be back in situ, and the last handful of cars just going into Luffield now. But it's very much a case of Aston Martins to the fore. Fantastic lap from Maxime Martin, fastest in queue, 1 minute 56.982 seconds. Jake Dennis in the sister car, 1 minute 57.112. But Jake Dennis's time, combined with the best time of his starting teammate Mathieu Vassivière, gives him an advantage of nearly half a second on aggregate over the 62 Aston Martin.
I mean, the Aston Martins are the only two, well, team members, but brands who have managed to get into the 1 minute 56 seconds around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit over this weekend. I mean, this is a very, very dominant performance from the Aston Martin, so I'm not sure what we're going to do. I don't know how our sport are going to have the... I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just so much quicker. Really, most impressive, most impressive.
I mean, we expected yesterday's best time to be bettered, 1 minute 57.447 by the Ram Racing Mercedes of Ewan Hankey, and now we're green again, so number 27 appears to be the first car out, one of the two Dyco Lazarus Racing Lamborghinis. That should be the Portuguese racer Miguel Ramos at the wheel of it.
So one of the Bentleys makes its way through,
and the two BMWs very early out as well.
Andy Soucek.
So Andy Soucek third in this session. But overall, the number 8 Bentley are not anywhere on the overall timing screen because they didn't set a flying lap in Q1. That is going to really scupper their hopes.
I mean, Andy Soucek did a 1 minute 57.5 on his first flying lap, which actually has him in this session third quickest overall. But of course, the car didn't get out in session 1. So how that will be resolved is interesting to find out.
Yes, I'd be interested to see how that works, because an average of 2 drivers isn't surely allowed to count against an average of 3. We do have 1 2-car entry in this field, but I'm sure they can work out what to do with Matt Griffin and Duncan Cameron in the 51 Ferrari. So great to ride on board with the Bentley, but as you can see, plenty of traffic up ahead, not what Andy Soucek would have wanted.
So the Nissan, Audi and Bentley in tandem all come through, McLaren following. So they come out of club corner as we look at Dirk Werner as he looks across at 911. Fred Machiavicki behind the wheel of that car right now.
So if you've just turned on and go, what country is this in with all this wonderful weather? It's Great Britain, it's Silverstone, it's been like this for 3 days now. So the cars look fantastic. There's people camping around the circuit, they've got wonderful conditions to stay overnight and spectate in. But right now, for the drivers on board in Q2, it's about keeping their focus, keeping clear of the other cars. BMWs were very quick out in this train. Jesse Krohn in the background, considering how they're going to slot in to the overall order. But they have yet to put in a very quick time in this session. I'm sure in terms of pace they can, but they've got to do it. The clock continues to count down. 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Good to see the 911 on the track. Fred Machiavicki, he's going out to not just try and set a fast lap, but to make sure he does it without interruption from any of his rivals.
Well, 911 hasn't made it into the top 20 in the combined so far, but we have yet to see a time from Fred Machiavicki in this car. Comes across, he's got a relatively clear piece of racetrack ahead of him, and that would be good news for the Frenchman.
So 2 cars being reported for hitting cones. One is 144, which doesn't exist, so it's either 44 or 114. I plumped that it's the Emil Frey Lexus Racing 114, so that'd be Stefan Ortelli, and 89 at the moment is Acura ASP Mercedes in the hands of Eric Debar.
Hitting Cohn's fast lane procedure after red flag under investigation. No end of penalties being handed out, so personal best for Makiewicz in sector 1 through Stowe corner.
Driver who's third fastest in this session is worth watching. It's the other Bentley, it's the number 8 Bentley, Andy Soucek. He set his fastest first sector, waiting to see what he does in sector 2. But Porsche currently not in the top 20 in Q2, but just wait
and see, because Makiewicz this is his first flying lap personal best in sector 1. So that will be a good start. So we need to see where this all-pro driven Manthey Racing Porsche runs again, right out to the very edge of the exit curb. Car looks stable. So into the tighter part of this village farm, the loop we're coming into now. And really here it's all about traction, and well, Fred Makiewicz managed to break traction as he ran the rear of the car over the curb on the exit, then through Aintree, personal best yet again. Still sufficient clear track ahead of him to enable him to get a clear, clean lap and see if they can get the 911 Porsche up into the top 20.
Franck Pereira goes into the top 10 in 10th place because it was 9th, but now we've got some changes. Nick Yaloli in the number 98 BMW, just come across, mainly being a Porsche racer. He goes up into 4th, 1 minute 57.558. And here comes 911. Where is that going to go on the time? He's going into 4th place, so it just pips Nick Yaloli's time by 3.
5th overall, Bruce, 4th in the
overall. There's the question. So the 98 BMW that Yaloli is 1 position higher on aggregate, because again we're balancing the Q1 and Q2 times, putting in on average. It's still the 2 Aston Martins, 1st and 2nd on aggregate, but Makiewicz keep pushing very, very hard indeed. Now, how about the number 7 Bentley? That's in the hands of Jules Gounod. Looks like the middle sector's cost him. I'm afraid he had a good start to that. He's 7th fastest in the session, but at the moment the time on aggregate only good for 14th overall for the number 7 Bentley crew.
I mean, these sessions just the blink of an eye.
You don't know where to look, John.
Well, not just only not knowing where to look. It's just it goes so quickly because there's so much traffic out there. You follow one car, one team, whatever, and all of a sudden a minute's gone, 2 minutes have gone. So the 7 Bentley comes across start-finish line, looking to see whether he can improve in a 157.5, 157.7, so not as good as the previous lap. Number 1, which was the Dries van Thor, and now driven by Christopher Mies, 8th in the session, currently 4th overall, has just been eclipsed by the 62.
But the number 14 Lexus top of the charts now in this session, Christian Klein, 156.802, so he's toppled the 2 Aston Martins from the top of Q2, and that puts the 14 Lexus 2nd overall. This is a circuit they are absolutely loving. So the 114 car is 12th on aggregate, but it's the 76 Aston Martin, but now Christian Klein in the 14 car, 2nd overall.
I mean, this is like a box of, licorice all sorts. I mean, you've got Aston Martin and Toyota, or Lexus I should say, right at the 4 here at Silverstone, and ordinarily where are the Mercedes, where are the Audis, where are the Lamborghinis? Well, great to see Aston Martin and Lexus at the front. Fred Makiewicz comes across start-finish line. Can he improve any further in the 911 Porsche? Currently in 9th place. I don't think that lap has done anything for the Frenchman. So
no, it hasn't at all. But a person who's just made a few seconds earlier moved up to 4th in Q2, Adam Christodoulou. That 88 Mercedes is now up to 3rd overall. So we've got the 76 Aston Martin at the top overall. Christian Klein in the number 14 Lexus. Looking at him on screen, and we've commented, John, yesterday and today, it just looks to have so much poise.
Yeah, I mean, the car is going where the steering wheel points it, which is fundamental, but not always easy to achieve. Car looks to have good overall balance. So good out of the loop, flat out to the left, through Aintree. Car tracks, no slide, just seems to be really, really glued to this newly resurfaced Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.
Norbert Siedler watching on in the garage, not quite sure where to look, but for Emil Frey Lexus Racing, this is new territory for them, not just because they've got the Lexus for the first time this year, but to find themselves consistently challenging at the front end of the field. They've really been on the rise. Nobody looks capable with 1 minute 20 seconds of challenging that time of 1 minute 56.8. I would suggest the 2 Aston Martin, still 2nd and 3rd in Q2, sitting in the pit lane. They won't be challenging.
Christopher Mies's current lap has been cancelled, I'm assuming for track abuse. So Christopher Mies in car 1 That car overall currently in 5th place. In this session it is down in 8th place, so that last lap, the lap that Christopher Mies currently is on, has been cancelled. 72, the Ferrari SMP Ferrari, it's up to 6th overall, 6th in this session, and looking down to see where it has made it in 19th position.
And that was the car that was on pole position for the opening race in Monza. There it is, red, white, and blue, the SMP racing livery. Miguel Molina, Spanish racer, pressing on yet harder, but his best time in this session, 6/10 of a second down on that astonishing lap from Christian Klein. So the tension mounts into the final half minute until the checkered flag comes out. 72 continues to press on. Molina, yes, he's improved in the first sector and now the middle sector. Down the Wellington straights he goes. No cars close enough in front of him to trouble him, but this will be his final flying lap as the checkered flag comes out in 10 seconds time.
So they would like to see a little bit further improvement to get that car up from the current would be the 10th row if that was to be their grid position. So personal best, and clear track Bruce, as you pointed out, should be a 3rd green as he comes across start-finish line. So the number 72
well, it wasn't
it remains currently overall 19th and 7th in this particular session. Yeah, you can give a fair enough, mate.
Yeah, but you can see the disappointment that was on the face of Mikel Aleshin. Davide Rigon will be going for running the
Stefano Telli in the sister Lexus, the 114, currently overall in 16th place.
And 16th in this session.
Indeed.
But there should be an improvement. He only has to find a few little blinks of an eye. He should move up the order. But what he has is clear track, still very serious down in Emil Frey Lexus Racing. 114 seems to be almost in a session of his own, going out wide over the curbing. Sweeping through woodcuts. How good is that lap going to be?
Personal best is up to 9th overall, and for Otelli that's 5th in this session, 9th overall. So both Lexus now with one session of qualifying remaining in the top 10.
So what a fantastic! It's of course the 76 Aston Martin. Any other car, any other challenges coming through in the final few car coming through? One BMW charging into the pit lane, one charging past on the circuit. The 98 car, Nick Yaloli, was fleetingly up into 4th place in the session, ended up in 13th. But suddenly the tension is rising in the Emil Frey Lexus Racing Garage, and Albert Costa just putting his earplugs in, but a lot of pride there. Christian Klein, yeah, he's very pleased indeed with that job.
Well, we've now got Marco Seidfried going to take over the number 14 Lexus, and he'll be up against in the number 76 Aston Martin, Nicky Thiem. And the gap, that 0.418 of a second that the Aston Martin provisionally on that pole position holds over 2nd place Lexus. I mean, it's going to be an unbelievable lap from the Lexus Marco Seidfried if he's to challenge for pole position for this afternoon's 3-hour Blancpain Endurance round. 2nd round of a 5-round championship. Next round will be 6 hours down at Paul Ricard from evening into dusk into darkness.
Probably about the same temperature as here, won't it, John? I think not.
Bring on the Rouge Grille.
Yeah, it pays to plan. But so at the end of that session, it's still on aggregate, or the combined aggregation. It's the 76 car at the top of the pile, but that fantastic lap by Christian Klein moves the number 14 Lexus up into 2nd place, and likewise Adam Christodoulou's fabulous run in the 88 Mercedes to move that car up into 3rd place. The second of the Aston Martins, Maxime Martin, did a good lap, but slides back from 2nd to 4th overall, and Christopher Mies, with a lap taken away from him, rather scuppered his charge in the number 1 Audi. BMW going well with their cars in 6th and 8th positions. Nick Yaloli, Conor De Filippi, and in between them, Lucas Stoltz in the number 4 Black Falcon Racing Mercedes. And then the second of the Lexuses, 114, good lap from Stefano Telli, and Fred Machiavicchi, 10th fastest, where he moved them up to 10th fastest with his run in that session. So we're looking ahead to the start of Q3. Another 15 minutes of action, may have a red flag in the middle of it, because both the first and the second qualifying sessions have had just that. But what we're going to see, it's about who has got the strongest average lap time, the fastest average lap time, who's got the strongest average crew, effectively. But on the pace shown by the 76 Aston Martin, you have to say the R Motorsport team must be feeling they've got a little bit of an advantage. And at the moment, they're 4/10 of a second clear of that number 14 Lexus on aggregate.
Well, I mean, putting Nicky Thiem into the 76 Aston Martin, all it's going to do is consolidate, in my view, that provisional pole position that they hold. It's then going to be the battle behind with Christian Klein, who's just the Lexus, the number 14 Lexus, the 88 Mercedes Raffaele Marcello will be behind the wheel of that. Then the 62 our Sport Aston Martin Alex Brundle we saw starting that session, and then really the gaps between second and 14th place is half a second.
Well, the Lexuses have absolutely been flying, and Dakota's nipped up the pit lane, and she's caught up with Christopher Klein.
Christian, now fastest in this session today. You were really quick yesterday. Are you going to be able to get this on pole?
We hope so. Marco did a good job already in the first qualifying, P10, now P1. I mean, the car is just mega this weekend. It really unleashed some potential and some performance of the car. We knew the first couple of races will be hard for us. It really works nice here in Silverstone. Now we just have to wait for the third qualifying. We have Albert Costa in the car, who's bloody fast in qualifying, and I think we have a good chance to be very up there at the front.
What do you think it is about Silverstone that makes the car just so great?
It's the track characteristic which just suit the car. All these medium and high-speed corners works very nicely on our car. We as a team know the track very well as well, so that all helps to be up there with the top guys now.
And now do you feel that you've completely understood how to work with the Pirelli tyres?
Yeah, it took us quite a long time. I mean, 3 race events, we were figuring out how to get the car in the right window with these tires. And seems like we got here. The new asphalt helps us as well. It's a little less bumpy, a lot of grip. That all helps to unleash the performance of the Lexus.
Good luck. Thank you.
Well, there's a happy camper, isn't he?
It certainly is, and I always like it when you see a teammate just popping past and tweaking their ear as they're on camera. It's good to see that level of banter and camaraderie.
Yeah, well, Albert Costa will be going up against Nicky Team, so 2 very capable drivers in 2 very strong cars.
Let's enjoy.
So this esprit de, whatever the expression, esprit de corps, that's it. In the Lexus team, really taking a massive leap forward. Track temperature up to 30. Well, been hovering around that anyway.
When it was 26 at the start of the day, or not start of the day.
Ambient 21.
Went out.
So what is it now? We're coming up to 10:45 in the morning. I mean, it's only going to get warmer as the day progresses. So expect to see track temperature up to maybe even middle 30s, and ambient up another couple of degrees. There's Nicky Team, and a driver who I certainly feel is not underrated, but just I don't know why he hasn't been picked consistently. Now he's in the R Sport Aston Martin team. Maybe this will be the opportunity that he's really been looking for to fully establish his ability and confirm what we all know, that he is a really, really quick guy.
And also competing for Aston Martin in the World Endurance Championship. Of course, that's a championship spread over 2 years, so there aren't that many races. So he's got a calendar that needs filling, and he's the sort of driver, has helmet, has race suit, will turn up. But he always not only lifts the team by his bubbly, upbeat personality, but he is very, very quick professional driver.
He's a character. He is a genuine character. I mean, not every racing driver has that, outgoing personality. A lot of them are introverted and fundamentally very shy people. But he's one of the more amusing people to bump into in the pit lane.
Right, now looking at Bentley mechanics working, suggest that will be the number 8 car. That was the one that didn't get a set of time. It looks like it's going to be qualifying last because you need 3 sets of aggregate times. Didn't get one from session number 1, and unfortunately it was a power steering problem, and they've been working on that ever since the cars came in. We've just gone green. You can see one of the Lamborghinis going past in the background. So the race is on for these guys to get whatever the problem is fixed and get that number 8 car out. It will inevitably be starting from the back of the grid. So that will be a story for this afternoon. The race starts at 3 o'clock. Of course, I'm sure it will be fixed long before then. But it's about getting back out and trying, just hoping that if anybody else has a problem, you can at least have 2 good qualifying runs.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether it's an electric power steering system on the Bentley or whether it's hydraulic. But anyway, the bonnet has been reattached, so they think they've got the number 8 ready to roll as the 7 makes its way out. And the thunder that the Bentley provides, followed by one of the 2 Nissans, the Evo 1 version of the GT-R, Nissan GT-R. Car to beat still is the 76 Aston Martin, which has been utterly dominant since we started this 3 segment of qualifying somewhat, 50 minutes nearly ago now. And just waiting to see in the pit lane. 13 minutes and 50 odd seconds to go. Not a huge amount of movement from the pit lane. The two Ronaldi Ferraris, just one makes its way out the 333 shortly off the jacks, and it'll make its way back out onto the circuit. So a bit more activity coming from the pit lane, but it's the 87 Mercedes coming around club on its out lap. Love that thunder, you know, it really, you can feel the ground shake if you're actually out on a corner.
Now, Nico Jamin had a really good run. It's running in the Pro-Am class, but he is very much the pro in that car, and he set some almost session-topping times yesterday in the morning, so that the pace is there in his hands. So we'll see that car going towards the top of the time charts, I'm sure, in Q3, but overall, when balanced with his teammates, that will, of course, peg him back. But he can only do what he can do.
Yes, Stroll Moore goes through in the 22. Nissan, the 7. Well, I'm assuming that's Stephen Kane. So, indeed, it is. So, the Ulsterman, third of the three Bentley drivers, and the number 7. He had a spin yesterday, unexpected and uncharacteristically, possibly in Copse Corner. Not a corner you really see too many people spinning. Maybe something under braking, and maybe another car trying to get around it didn't quite work for him. Slows right down, looking for track space. He doesn't want the 22 Nissan, which is the next car up, to come into play. Or of course he can't control is by the time he gets to Copse, who's coming out of the pit lane exit on the run up into Maggots and Beckett's. So hard on it now, gets the drive, straightens the car up as much as possible on this out lap, and this will be maximum attack from Stephen Kane.
Yeah, really trying to get the best exit speed from Woodcote. Great to see the heat shimmer up to Copse, and again, from the frontal angle, you can't just tell the sheer speed of these cars. There's a slight rise on the exit, but as John predicted, he can have a car pulling out, and he should be able to go past. It looks like the Black Falcon Mercedes, I think.
Yes, he manages just to get through, and a little bit of a bobble as he goes from left to right in Beckett's, then the exit at Chapel, and the car hop and the skip and the jump as it... Yeah, thanks, Guy, you've just given the illustration to the way words I was putting. So that normally, you don't see an awful lot of that. So whether that's a damping or whether it's a combination of circuit, this has been resurfaced, but there's always been a small ripple on that exit out of Beckett's into Chapel, and Guy picked it up, and we picked it up too.
Yeah, it's not often you see an Englishman out gesticulating a Frenchman, particularly a Gunon, but Jules Gunon alongside was the second of the gesticulators down there in the M Sport camp. So waiting for the first flying laps to come through, but what Stephen Kane has done for himself is give himself a clear sector of track to go out and play.
Quickest in that second sector was, I'm going to say, it was Matt Griffin. That's now been eclipsed. So the Bentley number 7, we're back with it as it makes its way up into, or through farm, into village, then up to the loop. Let's see whether Stephen Kane, in spite of that hop, skip and a jump coming out of Beckett's, the car looks pretty good at the minute, but the traffic ahead, so he's getting a brake light indicating that he'll get through pretty cleanly, but the Lamborghini ahead may become an issue. It's just about taking the racing line, and that's not going to help Stephen Kane's case very much, and he's not going to get through. He's had to back out of it. He has backed out of it. He's lost the lap because of a car. Now he's going to have to go through and do the whole thing all over again. That's the rub of the green. And it was a green Lamborghini that was the, I think, the 82 car. Yeah. So Stephen Kane got to 9/10 of a lap complete, and all of a sudden he just bailed it.
Yeah, better to do that than scupper your lap. So what the fastest time so far is, hello, there's a theme coming on here. It's the 114 Lexus, 1 minute 57.395 seconds. So again, great speed from the Lexuses. The second fastest car in Q3 is Nico Jamin, but that means, because 114 has got its third time in to produce an aggregate of the three runners, they're top on average at the moment.
Currently, with
they were
just under 10 minutes of the session remaining,
because Nicky Team has just gone top in Q3, and that also puts the 76 car back to the top of the time charts. The 62 entry, Marvin Kirchhofer, that means it's Aston Martin's 1 and 2 on overall aggregate, because a great lap there. Fourth quickest in this session for Kirchhofer is enough to put the 62 car slot in behind the 76, half a second between them. So that brilliant lap from Mathieu Vassilière has handed tenths of a second to his teammates.
And the 54 Jaguar, as you mentioned, in fourth place, ahead of the 17 Audi Van der Linde. So very, very tense moments. This is where it all suddenly begins. The pattern that we've seen on Saturday in the practice sessions. Well, the only thing that's been consistent is the sister car. This is the 62 car. The 76 car, utterly, totally dominant. Martin Kirchhofer in the 62 car currently in second place, and Aston Martin lockout provisionally.
Yeah, 1 and 2 on the grid, 76 and 62 at the moment. But wait, number 14 is on the charge. Albert Costa, we can't see him on the overall top 20 on combined or on our Q3 screens, but trust me, oh, well, he's just actually slowed down a little bit in that middle. Oh, that's 114. 14 is what we want to look for. I think it's a very quick lap about to be produced, but you go a little bit blind when people are off your timing screens, but Albert Costa is absolutely flying.
Well, we've got two timing screens, one giving what's going on right now, and the other screen giving us the combined of two, and then into the third session. So
114 completes another lap. Norbert Siedler does not improve. Waiting for 14 to come through. He seems to have disappeared from the universe. I saw he had the fastest first sector of anybody, but maybe he's had to back out on that lap. Didn't get to complete it. So on
it just goes through now. So 14 has just gone through.
Yeah, and his lap in fact wasn't in the top 10. Now fastest in the session is car 88. It's Raffaele Marciello. That puts it second on aggregate, so it's no longer an Aston Martin 1-2 and the number 4 Mercedes.
Lucas
Stoltz has moved that up into third place in aggregate.
88 in second place, but 62 has now gone into third place.
Okay, it's chopping and changing, but the thing was, until literally 10 seconds ago, the 76 Aston Martin was sitting on an aggregate advantage of nearly half a second. It's down to 0.159 of a second. That's a fantastic lap from Marciello to bring the 88 crew in the mix.
Indeed it is, and it just indicates the bonus that the 76 Aston Martin had after that first session, when they had almost half a second over the rest of the field. So now it's Aston Martin, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Audi, Lexus, Jaguar, and going to another Audi, then a Mercedes, Ferrari, another Audi.
Yeah, and the Ferrari that's down in 10th place is the SMP Racing one. This one you can see on the screens, that was on pole in Monza, certainly not on pole at the moment. How far down? 9/10 of a second down on aggregate.
Top 10 now by the 23 Nissan, the Evo version. Alex Buncombe has got that car into the 5th row of the grid provisionally. 6.5 minutes of the session remaining, and time still coming, and they're looking back at the Aston 62 personal best for that car. Maxime Martin behind the wheel.
Yeah, brilliant lap has been produced by Daniel Kalvitz to lead the Pro-Am class, second fastest overall in that 333 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, and that puts it 14th on aggregate, the lead car in Pro-Am. 62 still finding its way around the circuit. Marvin Kirchhofer fourth fastest in this session, but on aggregate that car is good for third at the moment.
Yeah, Dennis Bulletov in the number 35 Mercedes up to 8th overall. Maxi Kurtz in the 43 Mercedes up to 4th in this session. And looking to see where that car might be in the overall scheme of things. It's overall in 10th position, no, 11th position, no, 12th position, dropping as cars come across start-finish line.
Third fastest in Q3. That quick lap was produced 1 lap later than expected by Albert Costa in the 14 Lexus, and that moves the 14 car up into, well, not even in the top 20. No, it's up to third place overall now. That's where I couldn't find it. I was looking below the 62 Aston Martin, so the better of the Lexuses up into third overall. Third fastest of the session for Albert Costa, and I think he's got a little bit more up his sleeve. 5 minutes remaining. Who else is going to show their hand? We're going to have another fast lap from Raffaele Marciello. No, because that's his car in the pit lane, the second on aggregate, and it doesn't look as though that's going to be going back out again. How about the 43 Mercedes? That was right in the mix down at Monza, but at the moment they are outside the top 10. They're in 12th overall.
The second place Mercedes has got 2.259 of an advantage over the 14 Lexus. Maybe that's why the Mercedes, the 88, was pushed back into the garage.
Actually, John, it's only 1/10 of a second. That's the gap between them.
Overall,
it's 2.59 on the top Aston Martin,
right.
the 76 car, so it's very close indeed. But certainly the 88 Mercedes has been tucked away. A number of other cars coming back in as well. Who's going to be the player that delivers in the final moments? 4 minutes remaining.
Up to third overall. That car third in the top 3 as we speak. Davide Rigo in the Ferrari 72, he's gone 5th quickest in the session, and that Ferrari is now 13th overall as we wait with just 4 minutes of the session to go.
Now the best of the Bentleys is down only in 20th position overall. Unfortunately, Jules Gounod in this session is good for the top 20 actually, so better on average.
Romain Dumas in the Porsche just comes across start-finish line to do another lap. That car presently 8th overall, and Romain Dumas in the session, well, he was 13th in the session, but the times achieved by 2 previous runs still good enough. Down, in fact, have been dumped down to 9th place. Otelli in the Audi, in the Lexus. That's a telling story in an Audi. In the Lexus, in 8th place. So literally almost the usual story. Cars coming across the line, recording personal bests. As we look at the number 1 Audi.
What we seem to be getting though, I've just been watching the progress of the number 14 Lexus, Albert Costa. He seems to do a quick lap, a slow lap, or maybe he just simply, if he feels it's not happening because of traffic, he backs right off, then he attacks again. We saw, of course, the Bentley trying to do that and getting slightly caught out in the hands of Stephen Kane.
Well, you really, if you haven't got an opportunity to conclude a lap and you've got traffic ahead of you, then really the best thing is to back out of it. And the Audi number 1 just dancing around the nose of the cars that came through the complex. There is the 14 Albert Costa Lexus, and that looks like it's on a relatively gentle lap. So overall 3rd, 2/10 of a second behind the 76 Aston Martin, which has maintained that provisional pole through all these 3 qualifying sessions to date.
77 spun and continued at club. Car 27 spun and continued at club. But a driver who hasn't managed to deliver yet, and we're into the final, almost the final 2 minutes, is Ewan Hankey. He was fastest of everybody yesterday afternoon. But the 49 car not flying in this session, not in the top 20 overall on average. But you expected that one to be one that started slowly and worked its way forward. Not happening.
No, and pretty much everybody has done what they're going to do. We've got the 63 Lamborghini just making its way through Woodcut right now. We're not saying that car's 14th overall. It's up to 12th place, so Mirko Bortolotti has dragged another few tenths of a second. Start provisionally on the 6th row of the grid alongside the 35 35 Mercedes, Michael Meadows, Vitaly Petrov, and Denis Bulatov. So Denis Bulatov has done the time in that car to get the 35 Mercedes onto the 6th row of the grid alongside the 63 Nicky Team. Look at that, happy man.
Yeah, Nicky Team up on the pit wall, always a team player, and he's sitting on that advantage. 0.159 of a second in the 76 Aston Martin. And he knows the 88 Mercedes has parked itself in the garage, doesn't think it can topple it. Can anybody else? We've got just over a minute remaining, and almost all of the top runners in the pits. In fact, every car that seems to come around through Luffield is tucking away. Look at one of the McLarens, that's the 58 car that Andrew Watson went very well in earlier on. And in this session, it's Ben Barnicoat on board. So anybody staying out late will have the track pretty much themselves. Certainly the Hangar Straight looks great.
But Bruce, they've used the best of their tire, be it a used set, but most likely a new set. So they will pretty much, I was saying, almost every car. 72 just comes across the line one more time. That David Di Rigo, no improvement in terms of overall position, down on the 8th row of the grid in 16th position. There's the 58 McLaren in it. It's going to come, this is the exit of Club Corner, of course. Car 26 to report to stewards for hitting cones in turn 7. We haven't had many reports of that. So
the variety
Centerlock Racing cars. So that might be Marcus Winkelhoff.
Marcus Winkelhoff, yeah, 26. Well. So any quick times going to change things at the end? Bortolotti improved last time around.
One possibility. Romain Dumas comes across the line. Currently inside the top 10 and 9th place. Any improvement in? No.
Close to his best, within 2/10, but not enough. That checkered flag is hanging. So for anyone crossing the line, this is the end of their session. How about the number 4 Mercedes? Will that make a move in Jelmer Berman's hands? No, it doesn't, and that remains at 7th overall. But BMW's been there or thereabouts, but the 98 car at the moment good for 6th overall. The sister car 99 down in 13th.
So 58 McLaren continuing on doing the best that they can. The Ben Barnicoat behind the wheel, he takes the checkered flag. So down in 36th position, not where the McLaren team would want to be. That's a tough situation. Garage 59 entrance. There, the Aston Martin team, congratulations, well earned, super job all around by the 76 and the 62 cars. On the one car on pole, second car on the 2nd row of the grid. that's the sort of thing if a team comes to an event, 2 cars you'd like to see.
Now, car just about to complete its run, doing so now, one of the last across the finish line. Is there a change on the big screen? No, the driver who was fastest yesterday, Ewan Hankey, does not go up the order. How about the 44 Mercedes or the 72 Ferrari? Looking at that, doesn't have an improvement in either of its first 2 sectors, so not likely to move up the charts. So those last few cars coming through do not change the overall thing. But a driver who really pushed on, ended up 2nd overall. Let's hear from Raffaele Marciello.
Raffaele, that was an absolutely mega lap.
Yeah, we had a good lap. The car behaved super well. I was quite lucky on traffic, so I had a good lap. My teammate did also a great lap time, so our average was good for P2. So I mean, it's good position for us. The track is quite well for Mercedes, so we can have a good race today for sure.
P2 is a great place to start from, but it's going to be a very long race, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 3 hours. There is not so much degradation with the new tarmac, so we'll be like a long quali almost. So yeah, I'm happy because when you can push all the race, there is no degradation. Will be super fun for sure.
Good luck, thank you.
Well, that augurs well for us too, if they're getting all that kind of grip and low degradation. As Raffaele Marciello indicated, it could be a hot qualifying for 3 hours.
So here it is, the overall order, all 3 sessions combined, and it's that 76 Aston Martin remaining at the top, but the gap came down to just 0.159 of a second on aggregate, and then a 1/10 of a second further back. Combination of Seafried, Clean and Costa in their number 14 Lexus up into 3rd place. The second of the Aston Martins, number 62, qualifying 4th, and the car that won in Monza, the number 1 Audi, good for 5th overall. Top car in the Pro-Am class, the 333 Ferrari of Matchell, Salikov and Kalvitz in 20th position overall. And the top car in the AM class, the number 53 Ferrari, that came out at the top of that little grouping. Nick Homerson, Louis Michels and Andrea Bertolini, whose quick lap at the end brought them up to 35th overall. And have to go all the way down to the field to see what happens if you lose a session, if your driver doesn't get out in one of the 3 sessions, how it really can cost you. So we work down to cars right at the tail of the field, but they're just under 3 seconds down on aggregate, 1 second per driver. But the problem for that number 8 Bentley didn't set a time in qualifying session number 1 and remains firmly rooted at the bottom of the table in 50th overall. But some happy faces down at Emil Frey Racing. That's Albert Costa, very good job. They ended up 3rd fastest with their 14 car, and the sister car 8th fastest. So the Swiss team really has been making great progress. See Stefan Ortelli in the background as well. He's probably pretty pleased with his lap time too. So yes, applause all round and hugs. But hey, something going on at 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's a 3-hour race, so they've got to swing their focus away from qualifying and over to that as quickly as they possibly can. But let's go down to join the Aston 76 crew and catch up with Jake Dennis and Nicky Thiem.
Boys, a massive congratulations. Nicky, whoa, you were flying.
I have to say thank you to the French guy. He's coming in a bit, but he was flying today. I have to say Jake and me just have to do a banger lap, but still a really good lap, and that's we did it very consistent, all 3 drivers, and now we have pole position. It's great. Second race for the team, and on home ground for Aston Martin, it's perfect.
Jake, this flying French guy has a name, right?
Yeah, but we still call him the flying French guy. Matt's done an incredible job. Q1 to do that time is pretty impressive. You have to hand it to him. Yeah, and like Nicky said, we just had to finish the job, make a clean lap, no track limits, and yeah, first pole for the team, and yeah, we've ended up 1st and 4th, so it's absolutely incredible.
And here he is, that flying French guy that's going to put this car on pole. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, congrats to my 2 teammates as well. We did an excellent job, so now we just need to finish the race in a really good position, so P1.
Let's see how you go. Thank you.
Nice, please.
Well done, great to see the BES Motorsports team. We've got some very smart team shirts as well, and the drivers remember to put them on. Nicky Thiem obviously did that final session, but I think we heard from Raffaele Marciello, but he was very quick. His time also in the low 156. It was quick fire. Let's have a look at the highlights of the 3 qualifying sessions that ended up with that 76 Aston Martin taking pole position. So it was all about each of the drivers in all 50 of the crews going out and setting 1 good flying lap in each of the sessions. Their times would be aggregated. The 114 Lexus crew started to show some pace early on. In session 1, it was driven by Marcus Paltela, and they built on that. Then we had the 36 Henry Walkenhorst BMW possibly being given a push, but certainly going for a spin. That brought out the red flag, scuppered a lot of drivers' best laps. They had to come in the pits and start all over again. 63 Lamborghini crew trying to find the form that seems to have gone away from them this year, and the Bentleys taking to the curbs and really bouncing around a lot. But at least the 7 car was on the track. The sister car, number 8, had power steering problems and was stuck in the garage area waiting while those were fixed. The Team Parker Racing Bentley also really pressed on. The 72 Ferrari from SMP Racing, that was on pole in Monza, but never quite got right into the mix here at Silverstone, where it seems engines toward the front of the car seems to be the way that goes. It works best. The 114 crew continued to push on, and Christian Klein, Albert Costa waiting to see where they would end up. The power steering problems at the 8 Bentley crew continued to be fixed, and going to the edge of the circuit and beyond, we saw Raffaele Macho really starting to fly. But it was the Aston Martins sitting at the top of the chart. 76 would end the session in pole position. The sister car, number 62, would be second. It looks like it's going to be a great run on home ground.